there's a lot kind of in the air. I mean, we spent the first. I mean, let me just be accurate about this. Basically the first 30 minutes just like going about like, okay, setting the stage for where we are. But that isn't even all of it, because I haven't even mentioned the go woke, go broke crowd. You know, the anti SJWs. The basically at this point they're indistinguishable from like MAGA, because they've basically like helped propel their narratives. I mean, one of the things I will tell you is like, you know, there's been a lot of talk about like how it was that the right wing was able to like really like penetrate the consciousness and have all of their talking points. And people were like, well, the bro podcasts, Joe Rogan, and a lot of them go and work out and blah blah blah, WWE, whatever. But I would also say there are still plenty of movie fans out there, and unfortunately, some of the more successful YouTube channels are from right wing outlets like Geeks and Gamers, and that whole go woke, go broke crowd. And I think that after the whole explosion of the Last Jedi situation, they were able to really feed a lot of their personal beliefs onto people, because they were giving them a reason for why the movies were failing. It's kind of like how when Trump gives people an explanation for why, you know, the working class person feels crushed, he says it's immigrants' fault, and I'm going to go crush them on your behalf. Of course, he's being disingenuous. Of course, that's untrue, but people fell for it. In the same way, when it comes to movies, The Last Jedi is a great film. And it was done dirty because some of these assholes went online and were bitching about bombs in space and purple hair and women and minorities. And it completely gobbled up the entire conversation. And because of that, and they were able to latch on also to a year later with Captain Marvel and their punching bag, Brie Larson, and they exploded onto the scene, and they were able to convince a lot of younger individuals in particular. We also saw in the returns from the 2024 election that there were more Gen Z men that were voting for Donald Trump. Well, I do think there is a correlation between people who are online habitually and are being fed narratives that they really don't really know all that better about it. Because I think there are too many people. I mean, even Bob Iger and Disney have fell for it too, which is like, I think, oh, the reason why the movies have not been as successful is because, well, they've been too focused on being progressive, as if that's what they were doing, which they weren't. But they were too focused on giving too many stories to women or minorities, or that they were pushing down LGBTQ storylines on conservative audiences. There was a point, of course, to be made that some of these movies weren't as good, but there were legitimate reasons for why they weren't as good. But that's not what they were speaking to. We have always been saying, well, it's because Disney is a machine, and they don't want to give a movie like Captain Marvel in the hands of an auteur director and actually make it good. And they depend too much on the people that they already know, which are not very talented to begin with, as we said last week. And so the cycle continues. They have the worst instincts and the worst tendencies. And there are, and look, it's unfortunate, but there have been a lot of particular, let's just say, Disney projects that hailed the fact that they were like so inclusive and diverse as far as their cast, and yet they failed them at every turn. I mean, when you talk about, do you have an issue, David?
Motorcycle. I'm just muting it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was like concerned. It's like my heart stopped. Captain Marvel, The Marvels, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, The Acolyte. How many? It's very unfortunate. Even Black Widow, the Black Widow movie. How many of these have come out and have been underwhelming? And of course, the very first thing that people do is they blame the women. It's their fault for why it sucked. Or it's just very hypocritical because there are just as many projects that were led by men. But then they would say, oh, but at that point, it's because they were not white. That's why it failed. So they always have an excuse in the back of their hands, basically. So I bring them up because just today, there was some comments that were made by James Gunn. And I don't know if it was of his own volition, but I will say, also on this very day, Kellyanne Conway, the woman that made Donald Trump the president the first time, his former campaign manager, went on Fox News and was basically I think there's a chyron here that says Superwoke, iconic hero movie to embrace pro-immigrant themes. Okay. So that's the narrative they're going to cling to. We can already, I think, as we speak, geeks and gamers are writing their scripts for their reviews of the movie to have that, already out of the way with. James Gunn, of course. I don't know if it was exactly today, but this is where I first saw the comment. So, which is the reason for why I am bringing it up. Give me 1 second, my friends. I had it and I can't. Was it today or was it yesterday? No, it was yesterday. Okay, I have it right here. And there's something very simple. James Gunn says that Superman is the story of America. Which, by the way, isn't it refreshing to just have a filmmaker say, like, hey, I made a comic book about something. And to say something that is going to speak to something. Marvel should listen to that, but they won't. He says, an immigrant coming from another world, trying to make a life here. But for me, it's mostly about how basic human kindness is a value we've lost. To most people, when they hear him say this, they would say, wow, it seems like he totally gets where we're at. Because I'm somebody who feels this way completely, which is like basic human kindness is a value we've lost. And why is that relevant to Superman? If you ask yourself that question, not knowing already what the answer is, stupid. You're dumb. You need to go home and rethink your life. Because I am not an expert in this comic book character at all, but I know how to read a goddamn movie. And Superman is a lot of things, but kindness is inherently to what that character should be. And I will say, I don't want to be here and shit on and disrespect Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill. But if they had bothered to know that when they made their Superman film, we might still be talking about Henry Cavill today being Superman. Because that's not something that ever came across when you watch those movies.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Cavill played a rather stoic character that oftentimes came across as arrogant, if not completely indifferent to the pain that he was causing. Sometimes he came across like a damn douche. So I don't think that iteration of the character was successful at all to begin with, which might be why some executives were very okay with the idea of Zack Snyder doing, instead of doing a Man of Steel 2, he just went ahead and did BVS and then killed the character then and there. And then, of course, that just went into even more problems, blah, 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 blah. But we are already seeing the fight take shape before the movie even opens about what this already is. And if it's one thing to get picked up by geeks and gamers, it's already gotten picked up by Fox News. I'm pretty sure we're going to see the president go on Truth Social and post about this. Because like, if this already has Fox News and Kellyanne Conway's attention, here we are. So, wow, talk about making it political. I thought you people were the ones that said we shouldn't make movies political. David, I'd like to hear what you think about all this specifically, and I do think though, this is not going to go away. I do think this is going to be a continuing thing. Like, the movie is not even open, and we already have the discourse beginning away.
Mm-hmm.
David, your thoughts?
Uh,
But I'm sorry, I have to cut you off because there's one thing I have to add on to, because it wasn't just James Gunn, his brother Sean Gunn added even more fuel to these comments because he was asked about the MAGA backlash to Superman, and then Sean Gunn was like, "We love our immigrants. If you don't like that, then you're not an American. People who say no to immigrants are against the American way. They're against what the American dream is all about." That was today on the red carpet for the premiere of Superman. So just adding more fuel to it. I will say, as somebody who agrees with James and Sean Gunn and loves them dearly, I love the fact that they're not pussyfooting and they're not backing down, because we're living in an era in which too many of the studios that are owned by these corporations who either donated to this right-wing campaign or are afraid of getting a bad tweet by the president, they've just kind of like acquiesced to the president's requests and just done whatever that he wants, even so going so far as to donate to his inauguration. And then also, as we read last week with like Disney and Pixar kind of like de-queering a lot of the storylines, not just that, but then also like rolling back themes of environmentalism, anything that could be perceived as progressive. Last year, Bob Iger even said the go woke, go broke crowd is correct. There was too much messaging in our stories. We got to roll that back. So in the time in which so much of that attitude is around, it is so nice to see these two fuck that and push back against this really anti-immigrant hate, which even if you're for or against immigrants, if you're against immigrants, you should not be confused with being kind. David, your thoughts?
I don't know where to start.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Well,
I know it's a lot of things.
Well, actually, for one thing, when you mentioned Henry Cavill's Superman, the only reason why I disliked his Superman is because it just seemed like it was a burden to him to be a superhero. Where it's,
ooh,
that's what it always came out as. You know, even in that trailer shot on Batman versus Superman, where everyone's like putting their hand on his shoulder and he's just like looking up in the sky, but he looks all sad, and it's like I get what Snyder was trying to do in that, but yeah, that was just always the thing that bothered me. It's like it always seemed like there was this burden for him to be the one to save everyone.
It's as if like he was looking down on himself for having to be put in a position to even rescue these people. He was like, I hate this job.
Yeah, well, I would say like he hated the job, but it's just like, why does it have to be me and all that? It's like, I don't know. Like I said, it just always felt like he had like a burden on his shoulder, which is not really the case with that with that character. He's more than happy to help people, and if he can push someone to help others, like that's a bigger win for him, you know. But yeah, anyway, with the whole political messaging of this new Superman movie, I'm honestly gonna find it weird. I haven't looked at anything, tweets or videos about it, but I'm honestly gonna find it weird if people do complain about that. The whole Superman is an immigrant story.
Immigrant.
Because when
real quick, here's the Variety, which
that he called Superman an immigrant.
Here it is. So there, I guess the same reporter was asking the same question. Now they asked Nathan Fillion what he thought about this.
James has said that Superman is an immigrant story, that it is political. MAGA today was getting a little upset that he called Superman an immigrant. I wanted to get your reaction.
Somebody needs a hug. It's just a movie, guys. It's just a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here it is. Here's more of James Gunn.
You said it's an immigrant story. It's a political movie. MAGA today is going nuts. What do you have to say to MAGA?
I don't have anything. I think this movie's for everybody. I don't have anything to say to anybody. Like I'm not here to judge people. I think this is a movie about kindness, and I think that's something everyone can relate to.
You would think.
Mm-hmm.
You would think. Sorry, David, for cutting you off. Go ahead.
The whole
instant reactions.
Immigrant story thing. When stories were coming out of a new Superman movie coming out, I can't remember what exactly or what Superman news was coming out, but there were people complaining like, oh, they're gonna swap his race for this new movie or something. Like, what's gonna happen? No confirmation on anything. They were just already complaining that they were going to race swap Superman, and their reasoning why he shouldn't be race swapped is because the character was created by Jewish immigrants. by white dudes who immigrated into this country and, you know, kind of telling their story through this character. And it's like, okay, so now we can't bring up that for trying to come up with a story for this character. Like, what's, again, I haven't seen any videos of people maybe complaining about this or bringing this up, but if you are already, you know, you're contradicting everything you're ever saying. You're you're just trying to say anything at this point to try to get this, try to say hate, try to get clicks. So it'll be confusing once I do watch some stuff. I already like tried looking up, see if there are any videos about it, and there are. There are. But yeah, so about in terms of the whole immigration story, he's very much right. It is an immigrant story. It is very much someone who is trying to make sort of their own spot within this world, or this country in this case, but world basically. And I mean, we're just going to have to see what he does with it. Maybe it won't be a big part of the story. I don't know. But when it comes to those types of comments, I just hate when people nitpick about it, because it's like he needs a basis for this character, for this story.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he brings that up, that doesn't mean it's going to be the only thing about that character that you're gonna get. It's like, again, we mentioned this before, he's written some great movies, he's written some really fun, great characters. Pretty sure there's gonna be more to Superman than just that specific thing. I'm sure he will be funny. I'm sure he will be, you know, cool when he saves people. I don't know. So
the point is basically, if you're gonna focus on this, you want a fight and you want clicks. Basically, is what you're going to be doing. You're not really interested in having an honest conversation. Like, you're talking about people who, ideally, when you go into a movie, you want to like it, right? You want to have a good time with it. You want to interact with it, and clearly, the people who we're talking about here are not really focused on any of that. They're much more concerned with, like, how can I use this to, you know, prop up my beliefs, to prop up my narrative, basically, is what's happening, right? Here's more of the comments that James Gunn said. He said, yes, it plays differently, but it's about human kindness, and obviously there will be jerks out there who are just not kind and will take it as offensive just because it is about kindness, which I think that's true. There are plenty of people out there that just because it's about kindness are going to be put off by that, but screw them, he said. He continued, yes, it's about politics, but on another level, it's about morality. Do you never kill no matter what? Which is what Superman believes. Or do you have some balance, as Lois believes? It's really about the relationship and the way different opinions on basic moral beliefs can tear two people apart. You see, that gets me excited for this movie even more. Yeah, that's what I want to see right there. That's like great material to work off. And then some other reactions to this, which I thought was funny. This guy was looking at the reactions today about this whole immigrant situation, and then of course this person, Gunnar Dobbins, retweets it saying, I love when people try to escape it by going, he's a naturalized foundling or was born in a pod. Like Ma and Pa Kent didn't break mountains of laws in fabricating and lying where and how they got him, and every single paper needed to adopt or identify.
That was actually in Smallville, the television show. It was.
I've seen that clip from that, and it's a very good clip.
Oh, he's okay. Yeah,
That
I was gonna
scene
explain
anyway.
it, but yeah,
Yeah.
basically, I mean, to people who haven't seen it, basically, Clark's dad, he made a deal with Lex Luthor's dad to try to get like birth certificates and like all kinds of stuff that he needs to basically show that he's like their son. They adopted him, I think. Or yeah, I think they adopted him for sure, and that he is a citizen. And in doing that, Lex's dad was like, "Hey, I need you to do me a favor now." And he basically got someone to lose their farm or something like that. And you know, Clark was all mad at him, like, "How could you do that?" It's like, "Oh, well, I did it for you. I'm sorry." Blah blah blah. It's an interesting scene. But yeah, so there. It was cool that they explained it on that. I doubt they're gonna go into detail about it. I don't know, but Yeah, it was cool.
This is an interesting reaction. I assume this person is a conservative. This is what he says. The worst thing Superman, James Gunn and anyone involved in this movie could have done is make this movie political. The choice of words from Gunn calling Superman an immigrant story is a PR nightmare. Why even compare or give the idea that you're comparing Superman to illegal immigrants being deported by ICE? Why? Hollywood has crashed and burned, especially over the last decade with all their woke political nonsense. Picking a fight with over half the country who can't stand the leftist political propaganda and grandstanding is idiotic. It's always funny how they frame it as like, why are you picking on us? Why would you want to fight with us? It's not fair. And yet these people are constantly looking to screw everybody else over. I don't know. Maybe you're just evil. Have you considered that for a second? I don't know. This is just really, oh my God. I don't know what, this is too much. So just keep in mind that this is already out there. This is already happening as we speak. And so I guess we will see the effect this has, but hey, don't be too sure about yourself just yet. Cause if you're going to go with the idea that this is go woke, go broke, again, do you want that to be blown away again at the box office? I mean, again, this whole go woke, go broke thing has been bankrupt and like completely hollow from the very beginning. Barbie being the biggest successful movie ever made by the Warner Brothers studio, I think proves the idea of go woke, go broke has been a lie to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And how stupid is Bob Iger? And how dumb are the people at Disney for falling for it?
Yeah.